Maharaj. We're so grateful tonight that we're welcoming a very special guests, and we're so excited because it's not often that we can get devotees that still are working during the pandemic to be online with us. And so Jagannath Pandit is one of those persons that still goes to work. And so you might be wondering, well, what does he do that makes him have to go to work? So Jagannath Pandit, he's a youth counselor. And so he's really essential. I guess that's considered essential personalities. He's needed because youth always have challenges. And, Jagannatha Pandit's been married to Chintamani for 29 years. They have, as I said earlier with Chintamani's recording, that they have two beautiful daughters, Devaki and Janavatsala, and these children are just so exemplary of bhakti. And something about Jagannath Pandit that's just really amazing, that I feel so fortunate to be able to have his association, is he is one of the most devotional males that I have met in the Institute. He has so much devotion, and his devotion was known by Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj encouraged him so much, with him, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, fanning that flame of devotion with Jagannath. And so we're very, very fortunate to have him on tonight. We're so excited. And I think Ekavir has something to share about Jagannath Pandit.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Yes, actually, what Rajalila expressed, Srila Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj had a lot of affection for Jagannath Pandit. I remember him once expressing to me, and I believe Rajalila was there, that Jagannath Pandit is one of my more serious male disciples. And, I remember I was like thinking, it's like, yeah, he really is, but you didn't mention my name along with that. No, I'm just joking, but yes, he had much appreciation for Jagannath Pandit, because Jagannath Pandit, he's exemplary devotee. He's such an example. He's a family man. You can see there's a saying that the fruit doesn't fall far from the trees. The daughters are so devotional, and that's because of their parents, Jagannath Pandit and Chintamani. He's an inspiration for me in so many different ways. An inspiration for me in his desire to hear and chant, his inspiration to serve the devotees. I've engaged in different services through hospice care and just in general caring for people, but he takes service to others to a totally different level. So he's just an amazing person. So grateful to be here with you, and Haribol.
Thank you, Jagannath. Thank you so much. I just want to share one little thing about Jagannath that always resonates with me. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, whenever he wanted his hair cut, he would always ask somebody, call Jagannath Pandit. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj really trusted him. Haribol. Welcome, Jagannath Prabhu. Welcome to our Memories of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj series.
Wow, I don't recognize that person you all were talking about. So, it's good to be here, and I'm really excited to share something about Guru Maharaj. And what you all are doing here is fantastic, because it's keeping our Guru Maharaj alive by sharing his memories. And it gives us the opportunity to glorify such a great personality, and reflect on our memories and so on. So thank you for the opportunity. I always don't feel qualified enough to speak and glorify Guru Maharaj, but I'll try to share some things, as best I can. As Rajalila and Ekavir have mentioned, my wife is Chintamani, and actually, that's how I'm known, actually, that I'm the husband of Chintamani Devi Dasi. In fact, I'm so indebted to her because she was my first guru. In other words, she shared Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj with me. So she was the first to introduce me to him. And that completely just changed my life after that. I was on a student exchange program coming from the University of California, Berkeley, where Mother Rajalila also graduated from. And so I went to Howard University for a semester, and that's where I met her, and she actually introduced me to Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. But Rajalila had mentioned that that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would engage me in cutting his hair. Well, the fact is, I was not a barber. Before he engaged me in that service, I had never cut anyone's hair before. It was a completely new thing. So the spiritual master teaches in all kinds of ways. So he introduced me to that service, and it was wonderful because it was an opportunity where the two of us, it would just be the two of us, and it was an opportunity to ask questions of him and get close personal association with him, which I really appreciated. And I remember one of the instructions he gave me about how to do that service was to take the clippers, the clippers that you shave with, and you disinfect them. You have to dip them in some alcohol and turn it on. So he was telling me about how to do that and everything. And so he wasn't in the bathroom at the time, and I was getting ready to do it, and I was like, well, wait a minute, am I going to get electrocuted? I mean, this is plugged in, and I'm going to put this into some alcohol. Am I going to get electrocuted? And so I thought about it, and I was like, well, I don't think he would actually have me do that if I was going to get electrocuted. So I'll just go ahead and try it. So I trusted and did it. And lo and behold, I didn't get electrocuted. So one of the things that was just connected with this haircutting was that whenever he would travel, before he would travel, he would usually get a haircut. And when he would come back from traveling, he would get a haircut also. And so there were opportunities to see him right before he leaves, and then to see him right when he returns. And he would have so many questions, and one of the questions he would always ask is, how are the devotees? He would ask about all the devotees, and he would love to get updates on how people were doing, because he had so much concern and love for people. Which struck me too, because he was always like that, just so concerned about everyone. And one of the things I would do is that I would have like some kind of cap, that had the top of a medicine bottle or something, or a vitamin bottle, and I would use that to shave around for his Sika. And every time I would cut his hair and he'd cut around, you know, for the Sika, he would ask me, is there enough hair back there? You know, is it, you know, is it getting gray back there? He would ask all kind of little questions like that. And I would minimize it, even though it was, there was becoming less and less hair to shave, you know, to have a Sika back there. And so, during his last months, the very last time I cut his hair, I said, okay, I'm gonna tell him the truth this time. That there isn't much there to cut, right? So I said, yes, Guru Maharaj. Actually, there isn't that much there left, but you know, there's some there, so we'll still have a little Sika there. And then he said, well, don't think this won't happen to you. And sure enough, about here, it'd be difficult for me to have a Sika. So he blessed me in that way. So Guru Maharaj, man, what do I say? I mean, such a special soul. One of the things he would say, one of the descriptions of himself he would say is that he's a social spiritual activist. And one of the reasons, one of the ways he exemplified that is his emphasis on caring for everyone on all levels, mental, spiritual, emotional, physical. He did so many things to care for the whole person and the whole society and the whole world. And so there were so many things he would do to emphasize community, because he would bring us together in so many ways, you know, with any reason that he could think of for us to come together, he would get us together, whether it be American holidays, our Vaishnava holidays, you know, festivals, New Year's Eve programs, Christmas, Thanksgiving, even wedding anniversaries. He would get us together for some wedding anniversaries too, Madhava and Kunti especially. And it was such an opportunity, because what it would do is just create so much more bonding and love amongst us all. You know, the 6 loving exchanges, giving and receiving, prasadam, eating together, giving gifts to each other, and loving exchange. So there's so many pastimes in that way that we had with Guru Maharaj. We would go on bike rides, and during the picnics, I remember, I think it started when we would go to this area in Belleville, outside of Gitanagari, not too far, maybe 45-minute drive. And every year during the summer, right around my daughter's birthday, my second daughter, it actually started on her first birthday, where we would gather at this park, and there was a beach there, and there were trails and a lot of greenery, and we would have all kinds of Krishna conscious fun. He would make everything fun and bonding for everyone. And one of the things we'd do was we'd have these relay races, and it would be from the youngest child all the way to the oldest in the community that we'd all be on 2 different teams, and we'd have relay races, tag relay races. So, and so we would do that, and of course, somehow or other, his team would always win.
Not somehow or other.
Right, his how or other. So we play volleyball. We'd do water sports, and we would he would have the devotees do all kinds of like competition things, like arm wrestling. I remember Chintamani and Yashoda Mai were arm wrestling, and so much fun, you know, laughing and just like, oh man, what times we had. And so he would do so many things to create those type of loving exchanges. And I really do feel that the children that were raised around him got so much implanted in their hearts. And I actually have a video of some festival we were at, and there were a lot of devotees there, and we were dancing in front of Srila Prabhupada. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj had 2 little girls' hands. You know, one was my daughter, and the other was Prema. And they were just dancing in front of Prabhupada, you know, one hand in hand with Guru Maharaj, you know, while everybody else was also going back and forth dancing in front of Prabhupada. And I was just like, wow, this is just amazing, you know, how much he gave to the youth and the children, how much he cared for them and interacted with them. And one of the things I was reflecting on was that actually my children have had so many hugs from Guru Maharaj, more than I had. I think I've only had one in that whole time. There was one time we were at a airport seeing him off before I traveled. And he went around with a bouquet of flowers, and he gave a rose to each of the ladies. And he embraced all the men. So I think that was my only embrace that I had for him. But I actually always feel embraced by Guru Maharaj because of how much he's given in his books, in his recordings, in his disciples. Oh, I mean, there's so much. One of the things Srila Prabhupada has said is that 90% of our spiritual advancement comes from our association. So that was one of the things Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj did. When spiritual people come together, they help each other grow. So he would make all kinds of arrangements like that for us to come together. And another way he encouraged the children is we'd have what's called the music of the heart ceremony. And it would be like on New Year's Eve, or sometimes it was around Christmas. But what it was a program where the youth, the adults, but especially the youth, get to share whatever talents they have, whether it be musical, acting, dancing, artistry, poetry, whatever, you know, they got to share, and the community would be there, and we'd all encourage each other in that way. So it was really, it still goes on actually to this day. I think it's been going for 20 years, something like that. Yeah. So that's one of the special things I remember. He was such an authentic person too. That's the other thing. I mean, when I first met him, I remember leaving thinking like, wow, this is not an ordinary person. You know, there's so much love. I remember I was recording the little the time that he gave the first time I met him. I actually have the recording of it, and I ran out of tape, and he was playing. He had some music playing, and I said, "Wow, I wish I had brought another tape." And he allowed me to tape over that tape of music that he was listening to. So he gave me that tape, and which was so generous. One of the things that I remember also, he would find so many creative ways to help the devotees. And it seemed like the more challenging the situation, the more creative he would be with how he actually resolved the situation. Because one of the things he would say is that the spiritual warrior never wants the war to end. So when you're on the battlefield, there's always some situation to deal with. And he had so many situations to deal with. And so I remember one situation where there was 2 devotees working on a project, and they were having some challenges with each other. And what he did was he actually resolved the situation in the assembly of devotees. So what he did was he had each one give the perspective of the other. So they had to argue the point that they had a problem with. So they had to give that argument just as much as they would give their own argument. And it was just amazing how, I mean, it just transformed everything, because the devotees got to better understand each other's perspective in resolving the situation. Another situation I remember, he would just amaze me in how he would deal with things, because everything he did was out of compassion and love. And it wasn't like okay, well, you know, he wouldn't lean one side or the other. It was always, you would feel the love completely all the way around for everyone in the situation. And so this one situation, a person gave a class, and it was a pretty important philosophical misunderstanding that someone got from something that was said in this class. And so he brought that person and myself together. And the way he dealt with that, it was just amazing, because what he did was he shared how wonderful the way that devotee described or made the arguments in the class, that he or she did. And it was like, wow. But then also he explained the dangers and the misunderstandings around that. But both parties left, and it was like, wow, you know, everyone, you know, came out just like amazed at how he dealt with that situation. There were some times that I actually had the fortune of chanting japa with Guru Maharaj, with just the two of us. And those times were like probably my best chanting that I've ever had, you know. One was at Madhavacharya and Kunti's house. And it was just the two of us chanting, and I remember just, because I would play his tape sometimes when I chant, but this time I was with him, and I would just tune into his chanting while I was chanting, and I just felt so absorbed at that time. Another time we actually we were on 9th Street, and we went on a japa walk for, it must have been like 2 miles, because we ended up walking by my job. I used to work in a prison near there, near 9th Street. And we actually walked right near there. Yeah, that was nice. And trying to keep up with him was like intense. It was like a good brisk walk, you know. And speaking of which, trying to keep up with him, it's impossible to keep up with him, especially in kirtan. Oh my goodness. Kirtan, it's just amazing with him, because he would just involve everybody, and it was so contagious. When he led kirtan, it's just everybody was just taken to another level. You know, it just, the whole environment just transformed. And you know how, like, on a football team, when the team wins the big game and they take the big Gatorade jug and dump it over the coach's head, all the water, that's what he would look like. He'd be so soaked in the kirtan. And then he would sit down and he would start to give class, and then he would jump off the Vyasa and start singing and chanting again. And so those are some of the pastimes that are just buried in my heart on a deep level. One of the things that he propounded, which was, to me, it was like revolutionary and unusual, but it really is a profound thing to try to live by, is he was saying, no secrets. He pushed and stood by that in our communities we should have no secrets, you know. And because if we're in a true loving environment, what is there to hide, you know? There's nothing to hide. And So he's a very special personality that continues to live within my heart and the hearts of all that know him and have been touched by him personally, or in his books, or in his videos and his recordings. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Do you have any questions or?
Thank you so much, Jagannatha.
Yes,
Prabhu. Thank you for reminding us of some of those beautiful memories that you have. Yeah, you have been one of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj Gurudev's most reliable and respectful and surrendered disciple over the years. I remember after he left his body that you were one of those devotees that would spend hours just listening to his tapes. I mean, even now, I think if we ever want to hear what Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said over those years that he spoke, you have those tapes recorded. You have something recorded from some of those tapes. I was thinking of how you've heard from him so much through those tapes. What do you think his mood would be now during this pandemic? What would he want us to learn, or how would he want us to be during this time?
It's a good question. Of course, I can never fully understand what he would actually do in this situation, but I would say that he would encourage us to do exactly what you are doing, and that is preaching and trying to help people. Because one of the things he would say often is that we're on borrowed time, that we have a certain amount of time in this body, and we do not know when that time is going to end. That's an appointment that we're not going to be late for, and that could be today, it could be tomorrow. And so he was always in an emergency consciousness, and he clearly understood that his time, the time that he has is not his time. It's his spiritual master's time. It's Krishna's time. And therefore, let me give all that I have to give with whatever I have. And that was such a natural thing for him, because he would be always praying and thinking, how can I serve? What will create the most Krishna conscious effect? And that would guide his actions. So people in this world at this time are really being faced with their own mortality. They have to deal with all kinds of changes that are beyond their control. And these are tremendous opportunities to actually reevaluate our lives, our situations, and focus on what's really important, And so he would take as many opportunities as he can, which you are doing, to preach and to share and to help people to have more solace based on the fact that we are not these bodies, that we're not the supreme controllers, that we're not the supreme enjoyers. but also understanding that there's a bigger picture behind all of this. And it's a wake-up call. So many people are leaving the planet unexpectedly. And everything is being showcased to everyone around the world. So there's just tremendous opportunity for more spiritual enlightenment at this time. And he would say that, you know, at the time of most challenge is the most opportunity for spiritual growth. And so on a global level, that's what's happening. And the devotees actually have the medicine to resolve the issues on a deeper level, beyond just the health of the body.
Yeah, you know, I am so really grateful to him. I believe that he sent the devotees that are assisting to bring more awareness, you know, to people through programs like this. So if it wasn't for Kishore Rani that, you know, just wanted so desperately to introduce Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj online, and if it wasn't for Anna, who's just so enthusiastic to assist in this service, and Leela and Bhakyat, all just really so supportive, we wouldn't, you know, be doing something like this. So I'm just really grateful to them for making this possible, and I'm grateful to be working together with them as a team. So Anna, do you have a question for Jagannath Pandit and Kishore?
Thank you so much for sharing. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thanks so much for sharing your memories. It's just struck me right now that it seems that despite the gravity of the situation, like you said, that we are all on the borrowed time. And I'm assuming that Bhakti Tirtha Swami understood that more than any other person. Yet he, from what you shared, didn't think that having fun, like playing around or arm wrestling or doing water sports, was a waste of time. He didn't believe in that. He seems like he gave a big share of his time to do such activities, or to organize such activities, or to watch devotees do such activities. And he believed that it was a part of life, a necessity of life, in terms of loving exchanges. Otherwise, I assume he would not have done it. And that's very important for me to realize, at least, because I've never met him. And my idea of Maharaj is somebody who's very serious, always just philosophy, like high stuff. And it seems like there's a whole other side to Bhakti Tirtha Swami, which is really great to know. So thank you so much for sharing that.
What about you, Kishore?
Also, I have so many questions that like more personal question. What about this? How you decided to move? How you get close to Chintamani? How many people were in the community there? Like, what about this and that? But I'm not going to ask it today. And I really am grateful to you for sharing his mood and sharing your heart with us. Like, every time I hear stories about Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, I'm so grateful. I don't know why and how I got this person to meet all of you, but it's such a breaking stories and such a mercy to get to know Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj from your memories. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kishore Rani, I just want to say that we're all mercy cases, and I believe that you are the mercy case of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. And because of Radhanath Maharaj, we are all interconnected. That's something that I've personally experienced in my life. You know, we're so much interconnected with so many wonderful personalities that are so connected to Srila Prabhupada. So we're going to close out with Ekavira Prabhu. If you have a question for Jagannath Pandit, and this will be our closeout for Jagannath.
Well, Jagannath Pandit Prabhu is going to close us out. If examine in your heart, and if there was one thing that you would think that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would want us to take from this wonderful discourse, this wonderful sharing that you engaged in, one thing that you want us to take with us to remember this day, to assist us in this dire time, this time where we're engaged in social distancing and spending time with our loved ones, but yet we'll eventually go back out and interact in the world. So what is that one thing that you think he would want us to take with us today?
In this time, there's so many challenges that people are faced with, and they experience it on a level, on an emotional level. And that can come out in our interactions, frustrations about situations, and fears and anxieties. So in these types of situations, knowing that people are experiencing a higher level of miseries, then I think Maharaj would want us to think less of ourselves. He would want us to think of ourselves less and be more selfless by trying to relieve the miseries of others. And by being compassionate to what people are undergoing based on their level of knowledge or lack of knowledge or realization of what's really going on a deeper level. So, in one word, compassion.
I will.
Okay. Anna, you want to close us out, please?
Thank you so much once again for sharing your memories. The last thing I heard you said was that in any times of grief or sorrow or difficult times, just try to think, put less importance on yourself and less about yourself, and try to take care more of others. And that's the message that I'm taking with me tonight. Like, try to be more compassionate. And that's the key. That's the key to survival in any difficult situation. And thanks so much for that.
Haribol, Haribol Prabhu. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thanks, everybody.